A pleasant day to everyone. This research presentation was endeavored by the following authors. Yours truly, Dr. Marilu Diumsay, Miss May Ann Boquel, and Miss Beverly Gagabe, entitled Communication Barriers in School-Based Management: A Systematic Review. School operates in a dynamic way. Its main goal is to achieve the minimum learning goal set. In the recent years, school-based offered various benefits to school. According to Takai of 2002 and Shukla of 2002, SBM improved the teaching and learning, equipping and developing school workers, and ensuring the safety and welfare of all students and staff. According to the accountability framework of school-based management adopted from the World Bank 2012, the school operates within two dimensions of accountability, and that is through the providers, which are the teachers and non-teaching personnel, and the clients, the students, parents, and other stakeholders. Within the bounds of this transaction, communication occurs in the form of responses and messages, and likewise, it is where the communication barriers also happened. The study on the significance of school-based management in the past 20 years have earned a lot of interest to educational researchers. However, for no avail, research is still lacking regarding communication barriers in the context of school-based management implementation. In order to address this theoretical gap, it is for this reason that a systematic literature review is conducted to synthesize the existing literature on communication barriers in the implementation of school-based management, particularly in public school institutions. Last, the analysis of proposes some direction for additional study in the future. This study seeks to answer the following questions. What demographic data is in the existing literature on school-based management in terms of the country, research designs, number of participants, and the different concepts of communication barriers in school-based management? What are the varying communication barriers existing in implementing school-based management in public school institutions? And what suggestions for further research can be identified through an exploration of the current literature on communication barriers in school-based management? This section provides the theoretical dimension used in this study, including the Shannon Information Theory, the accountability framework of school-based management adapted from the World Bank 2012, and the communication barriers according to Sabuncuglo and Gomez 2008. Based on these three theoretical backgrounds, a framework is created that follows and guides the systematic review analysis of identified and valid literatures as indicated in Figure 1. This study utilized the systematic review analysis as the functional research design in answering the research questions. Moreover, as indicated in Figure 2, the preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis or PRISMA reporting checklist carried out the systematic review according to PRISMA Liberati et al. 2009. The process involved four stages: identification, screening, eligibility, and inclusion. After these thorough processes, out from 800 SBM-related literatures, there were 12 valid qualitative literatures and 10 valid quantitative literatures were accepted based on the inclusion and exclusion criteria. The findings of this study in terms of demographic data on the existing literatures on school-based management per country: there are 13 literatures in Africa, there are 3 literatures in Asia, there are 3 literatures in Europe, and 4 literatures in USA. In terms of research design, there are 12 qualitative research designs that were accepted in this study, and 10 quantitative research designs were accepted as well. Concept of communication barriers in school-based management from different studies are as follows. School-based management process in education, school site-based management, communication barriers in school, communication process in education, organizational communication practices, leadership, management, and administration, school leaders, effectiveness in decision making, parental involvement of the parent in education, parental and community involvement in school, participation of stakeholders in school principals' decision making, and teamwork culture between teachers and parents. In terms of the various communication barriers in the implementation of school-based management, based on the gathered literature, the following are the physical and technical barriers between school management and teachers or staff. These are lack of resources for travel and communication, lack of communication skills, a direct result of the lack of communication between the middle people and the change in the medium of communication. Now, between school management and students, parents, and other stakeholders, these are identified communication barriers, physical distance, sociocultural differences, and parents' financial problems. We have also low skills of parents in communicating and mentoring, insufficient notice of school events, and lack of communication channels between school leaders and stakeholders in preparatory schools. Next, we have also the physical and technical barriers between teachers or staff and students, parents, and other stakeholders. For example, parents who cannot speak the first language and the low skill of parents in communicating and mentoring, the low of skills communication correlates with the lack of success in influencing the communication. Now in this slide are the various communication barriers in the implementation of school-based management based on the gathered literatures in terms of psychological or social barriers between school management and teachers or staff. For example, disagreement between school leaders and teachers, the existence of identified timing, language, and cultural differences. Now, we have between school management and students, parents, and stakeholders. These are the psychological or social barriers. Stakeholders feel differently in communicating with the school. Parents do not feel welcome in the school. Conflicts and disagreement between principals and stakeholders, inappropriate schedule of school activities, and parents' education level. Now, between teachers, staff, and students, parents, and stakeholders, these are the psychological or social barriers. Poor communication with teachers and students' representatives, parents' lack of trust in teachers and their unwillingness to cooperate, lack of interest in informing parents of school-related issues, and teachers' misbehavior. Now, this section provides the findings of the various organizational barriers as collected coming from the accepted literatures. Let's start with the school management and the teacher staff, such as communication overload. Poor communication creates confusion with the school. Insufficient information is then communicated to the subordinates. A limited number of inspectors of school affects support supervision and monitoring of schools to improve the quality of teaching, learning, and school management. A shift in educational management affected leadership structure, communication protocols, and administration. Lack of school leaders' knowledge, lack of proper coordination and involvement, lack of decentralized decision making, lack of using rules and procedures, lack of effective communication in external conditions, and lack of proper hierarchy of authority in a school setting would also to poor communication in the school. As continuation, the findings of the various organizational barriers, this time between school management and students, parents, and stakeholders, lack of know-how of stakeholders, knowledge and skills of school principals in participating stakeholders, lack of social relationship, the rigidity of school principals, and inadequate communication between school stakeholders, lack of communication skills, and the existence of an information gap, and lack of information and communication skills. Now, between teachers, staff, students, parents, and stakeholders, these are identified communication barriers, particularly organizational barriers. The idea is not accurately communicated to the community, and the parents and the community members did not know their right and privileges of being involved in school activities. This portion of the findings shows the summary of recommendation from various works of literatures. This will be based on the SBM dimensions, starting with the leadership and governance. Based on the synthesis and reading of the recommendation of the various literatures, it says, according to Wiley of 2020 and Muhammad of 2018, that communication between school leaders and staff can be the difference between success or failure in reaching goal due to poor communication. If a leader makes clear the intended course of action, inspires, motivate, and impacts staff to achieve targets and students' learning achievement, and unclear direction could be avoided. To add, to ensure openness, improving communication encourages stakeholder participation and preserve a positive working relationship between staff and principals, among other things, and school principal is a must. The BESA 2020. In the second dimension of SBM, curriculum and learning, synthesis of recommendation are as follows. The adoption of an open door policy for parents by school administrators and teachers was advised. It was also suggested that schools take the initiative to realize cooperative efforts among the school staff, parents, and other institutions. Electronic communication should be used effectively in addition to conventional communication channels, according to Osman et al. Of 2016. Based on the presented literatures, it is recommended in the dimension of SBM, particularly in accountability and continuous improvement, that the ability of principal to resolve disputes in a way that strengthens the school community may call for additional training. That's according to Noel et al. Of 2008, added by Pont et al. 2008 and Osman et al. 2016, advising school to give stakeholders essential transparency so that school leaders' decision-making may be effectively improved could help improve relations between parents and teachers. Now, for the last dimension, which is the management and resources, it is highly recommended that school administrators should advise strategies to improve communication and the participation of stakeholders in decision making for additional support. Stakeholders from various organizations should form an active advisory council, and they should also be held equally accountable for their contribution to improving the school. That's according to Muhammad of 2019. In conclusion, this systematic review analysis provides an overview of the following communication barriers in the implementation of school-based management, namely, the physical and technical barriers, the psychological barriers, and organizational barriers. And once these barriers will be addressed, school leaders can improve the timeliness and quality of communication and decision making in the school-based management and further develop an improved system that could channel information to teachers, students, parents, and stakeholders seamlessly. In addition, the framework that is included in this study can serve as basis for further research that examines communication and its barriers in all aspects of the school-based management system. And that's all for my presentation. Thank you and God bless us all.